It always comes to this. Hello there, guys. Back again to another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I think I showed off the inside part of this sleeve here. I had a decent session with Rick that day. I had a better session with Rick this week. We took the path of more resistance. If you watched my last vlog, I mentioned that over the Christmas break, neither one of us were really feeling up to doing a whole hell of a lot, so we just did second pass of color. As I always say, second passes of color on black, or just in general, I guess, they take a lot less time, and the ink saturates a lot quicker. For reasons like this, even though my sleeve, chest piece, my rose sleeve, all these things take quite a few sessions, the later sessions, the farther down the road sessions are always quicker ones, and they heal easier, and you get a lot more color out of the deal. So doing this, even though we didn't work that long, we got a really nice result. Now this is about a week and a half healed, maybe a little more. I don't even know where I'm at here. I've had a bit of a crazy day at the shop. Sometimes being the shop manager means being the bad guy, and I had a situation where I had to be the bad guy today. Fortunately for me, I'm fairly good at that role. I'm not going to get too much into that though, because that's a whole other chapter. I was supposed to have a session with Terry tomorrow. Terry's been sick. This is our first day back at the shop, and Terry actually came down with the flu. Unfortunately, we had a guy travel in 12 hours to see Terry. He found Terry from my videos, and Terry's going to do some blackout on him. Whenever you're, having people come from that far away, it doesn't feel great when you have to tell them that the artist is unavailable. It's the worst feeling in the world. But fortunately, the guy was able to come this coming Saturday, and we got it sorted out. He was planning on staying in town anyway. I moved some things around, and away we go. Anyway, I was supposed to be getting, I think what I decided on was we were going to do the red around the white highlights on my white on black, black on black, and the white inside again. That would be the second pass for the red, third pass for the white. The white is staying really well, but it can be done a third time for, a result closer to the high points in the roses. So even though it's staying really well, just looking to enhance that a little bit. With that said, I have several more sessions with Terry coming up, and I'm still figuring out exactly what this piece is going to be, but I have a pretty good idea of the feature piece for that spot. Now, I had multiple different ideas I was tossing around in my mind, but I think I've settled on the one that I'm going to go with. I also showed off how the spider webs had healed, and no real change there. They're doing really good. They just serve to break up the red saturation over the black, and some of the inconsistency is made less apparent through the use of the distraction of the line work done over top of it. So I had another session with Rick. We got into my elbow pretty heavily this time. Some of the trouble spots for this sleeve are going to be the ditch, the inner bicep, and the elbow, which is primarily why Rick has been avoiding doing those ones early on, because it was important that we got a foothold on what this sleeve was and a good kind of overall flow before we got into worrying about the hard parts. I had so many people ask me questions like, why haven't some parts of the sleeve been started while other parts of the sleeve have been passed multiple times? And that's a very good question. It's an irritating one for me too, but I do understand Rick's pathology, and his approach has worked. So as long as we're getting results, I don't have a right to argue with them, especially given that I banked on this taking 60 to 80 hours or sessions to begin with. For hours, it's going to be more like 200 to 300 hours. That's kind of where I was at with this from the beginning. And being that, theoretically I only have one arm, though it's had several coats of paint on it, I was more than willing to, take the time that it took with this. This being session 32, I would say we're approaching halfway. Before I show off what we did this time, you'll have seen it in the thumbnail anyway. Some of you will have been following my TikTok or whatever other accounts and maybe seen it prior. Terry won't be here tomorrow, but Rick is broke as fuck. So Rick and I are planning on having a bonus session this week. That may or may not happen. Sometimes Rick promises more than he delivers. We'll see where he's at tomorrow after his session. But I may end up sneaking in a bonus session with Rick this week, which would be the first time he and I have had 2 sessions in a long, long time. We've done it before, but it's been a long time. Usually Rick won't work on someone more than once in a week. He prioritizes healing, which sometimes just means that if it's going to be anywhere near healing tissue, he won't touch it, or say back-to-back appointments are kind of off the table for him. He does make exceptions sometimes. I think it scales with how much money he needs too. His ethics are a little loose and based on where he's at in his pocketbooks. But I don't think that there's no science to it. I just think he's willing to bend his own rules sometimes. I have for a long time been planning on extending the work on my hand from the sleeve, and so theoretically, if we have that session tomorrow afternoon, we're going to be building the lower final part of the sleeve, at least the outline, maybe some of the black. Usually Rick, especially for something like this, but usually whenever Rick does a hand tattoo, he just likes to do the lines first. The hand tends to swell, and he likes to lay things out, then come back in. And especially when you're dealing with scar tissue. Now, fortunately, my left hand is actually pretty good. My right hand, however, has tons of scar tissue. So we may get some of the black laid in there, but we're going to work around the moon and kind of connect everything up, and it will look a lot more cohesive, and the moon will make more sense as well. There is a way that I'm going to blend everything together, believe it or not. That shouldn't be surprising by now, given who you're watching, but for some people, they probably thought, how is he ever going to pull that moon into things? Well, I've got a plan for that, so don't you worry. With that said, hopefully that happens this week. If not, Rick and I will be back up here in the inner bicep / ditch area. That's kind of we've kind of got everything on the lower arm healing right now, so yeah, I haven't even said what we did. We got into this whole area down here, so we did most of the color on the elbow, but you can see even when we close up, you can see a lot of black through that. The elbow is going to take a lot of passes. Even this one through that callus, that's all saturated, but some of it blobs up a bit, and even though it's in there, it's under that callus layer, so you can see there where the red is in there, but it's under that callus, and my elbows are really dry, even though I moisturize them every day. So elbows are a bit of a bitch, so the elbow is going to take a lot of work. So he didn't end up saturating all of this, but he got a lot of the color in there. And again, this elbow is just going to have to be done in stages, because you can see here, this is the weakest part of the color on black by far in the elbow, like the ball of the elbow there. But we're getting it, and we made a lot of strides. All of this was quite a bit of work too. There's about 3 hours in there, because there's actually a lot more color than it looks like. Whenever Rick goes to work on me, he pours something between 20 and 30 ink caps. And because we have to do all that black again every time for some reason, well, I know why, but you know what I mean. Just giving him shit, I guess. Whenever we have to do all that black, that creates quite a bit of trauma too. It takes quite a bit of time. He also got some of the color into the bone talons here on the front and back here. Really helped pull things apart. So we're getting there. Steady progress. But as I said, if we don't work on the hand tomorrow, that won't be what we end up doing this coming week. That's just kind of a bonus thing that's down the road. I was thinking of doing that more or less near the end of the sleeve, but if we have an extra session, I wouldn't mind getting it laid out and getting it in there, so that we can come and, you know, start beating away on the color on it too, in between healing on other things. For quite a while, we were working up at the top of the arm, and it was getting pretty dry. I was, you know, having quite a bit of dry spots, and you could see the deep tissue was healing up. So we've been working primarily on the lower stretch of the arm for a while now. It'll be a lot more relaxed and healed, and the color will all go in a little bit easier too. Because even though this stuff has been passed twice, and some spots have even been hit 3 times, we're going to hit this more again. All of this stuff is going to be even more vibrant by the time we're done. What I pictured for this sleeve was like, I want it to be as good, as clear, and kind of mind-blowing as something you could have done on negative space. So even though parts of this look like they would be finished in someone's mind, they're not in mine. Similar to the chest piece, like this could be done. And though a lot of people don't like this chest piece, it is technically really impressive work. The color packing that was done on the black, you know, that's not easy. That was a lot, especially with how black my chest was when we did this. All of this can still be made brighter and bolder, and I do plan on doing a few sessions on it after we get done with this sleeve finally. So lots of work left to come with the color on black. Really just getting started. I know I say that all the time, but there's levels to this thing that have not been reached yet, and there's levels of this thing that I don't think I'll reach either. So I think as long as I've got stamina and patience for this work, I can keep making things better. Yeah, it was a good session, not too painful. I don't find the elbow very painful. You know, I've probably had both of my elbows tattooed, you know, 12 to 20 times. You know, it's hard to even say. It feels like whenever I work on my arms, I end up hitting my elbow multiple times. So my elbows have gone from full color to black several times, like several passes of blackout, to now several passes of lining and full color over them. You know, white packing, color packing over black, so you're putting it in harder. People ask me how my skin is to tattoo, and from what I've been told, it's like tattooing leather to some degree. It doesn't really feel like leather, it feels like normal skin, but because it's so thick with layers of ink there, when you're tattooing it, you really have to go deep, you have to go hard. And Terry actually finds it kind of relaxing to tattoo me to some degree. You'd think that he would find it worse, but he's told me that he likes tattooing me because he knows just about anything he does is going to heal okay. And my skin is tough, so it can take a pretty good beating before it's had enough. Whereas there are some people, there's one girl here at the shop, for example, one of the tattooers at the shop, she has very thin skin. And whenever he tattoos her, she welts up and she bleeds, and her skin kind of taps out really quick. So you have to get that ink in quick. You've only got so long to work on any given section of her skin. She takes the ink really easily, but you can't stay there for very long or it gets beat up really quick. So he doesn't have that concern when he's working on me. So it's actually pretty chill to tattoo me, believe it or not. And especially when you've tattooed me for years and you know what my skin can take and heal, you have a lot of leeway when you're working on me. There's almost nothing you can do to me that's going to result in me getting an infection or having a shitty heal or something. So there's a lot of forgiveness in my skin, believe it or not. Some people would probably be assuming that it's different or the reverse of that, but I haven't had a problem healing in I don't even know how long. So food for thought. Seems like the more work you get, the thicker your skin gets, the more of a beating it can take. At least in my case, that's been the situation. Anyway, I'm pretty tired. It's been a long day at the shop here, so this is going to be a bit of a shorter one, but I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.